Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to check out this thing. This is a consolized MVS. So it's in an AES case though. The AES was a gaming system that none of us had probably because it was super expensive and the cartridges were expensive. Everything about it was expensive. But what this is this is an MVS board in an AES case. Now, I looked at other products like this before from China. The last one I looked at was actually a super gun that also had MVS capability. So it could play MVS carts and it was a super gun. If you're unfamiliar with a super gun, I'll have a link to that video so you can learn all about those. But that's a way for you to play arcade game boards without an arcade cabinet. And same with this. You could play MVS Neo Geo games without the arcade cabinet. So let's just quickly take a look at what this thing has. Now, it did come with some cables, a power cable, and it came with, it was interesting, they didn't have the Neo Geo gold decal on it like you see right here. This was actually in the box, and then I had to put it on, and I screwed up. You can see the O is kind of jacked up. So all I'm gonna do is obsess about that. And I didn't have SNK up here. That was also a decal. So I don't know why they shipped it like that, but it didn't ship like that. You'll see inside, there's your MVS cartridge slot. You got a reset button, and in the front over here, you have a power button, the DB15 connectors. These are great because you can hook up controllers to them, the Neo Geo like CD controllers. I have one, I'll show you that here in a second. And then you have USB ports. So if you want to hook up a USB controller like an Xbox controller or an Xbox 360, whatever it is, it will work with those too. And then you have a headphone jack here in the front. We're gonna look at the back in a second, but I wanna show you what I mean when I say you can hook up Neo Geo controllers to it. Okay, so here is my Neo Geo CD controller. You can see that right here. People love these because the D-pad has like micro switches that click. Here, I'll put it up to the mic so you can hear it. That's why people love them. They're great controllers too, and they're great for playing Neo Geo games. But the great thing is if you have one of these or you have any of the AES compatible controllers, you can plug those right into this device. So you can see right here, there's the DB15 connector, and you can plug it in right here. The only thing about this that's really interesting is when you plug these in, the way they set the actual port when they, I guess, soldered it onto this main board inside, it kind of like sticks out. So this is in all the way, but it's almost like they should have made this connector go deeper into here so it'd be flush when you connect it. So that is kind of weird, but hey, what do you expect? This is an AliExpress special. There's going to be some problems. It's not going to be perfect. But what I think is really interesting about it is the connectivity. So right here you have RGB. So you have RGB out. So we're going to play with that. I want to see what this is going to look like. So I'm going to do this both on an LCD and on probably a PVM so you guys can see that. S-Video I probably will not test. And then you have component and you have composite. So it does come with component cables. It comes with a composite cable too. And then you have just your power input right here. The other things are kind of interesting. It's marked on the box. It says JAMA and MVS. I think this was because maybe they've used this similar case for a super gun or something that was a mixed device, but not this one. So there's no actual button there, but it is on the plastic. I suppose we could open it up, but I don't feel like there's really gonna be much interesting about it, but maybe if you wanna see like how the quality of the work that was put into this device, you know, I'm not sure, like did they recap it? Did they do anything to it? I know a lot of people that are into Neo Geo are going to be interested to see if they have put any updated BIOS on it. I think this does have the 4.0 Uni BIOS, but I'm not 100% certain. So when we power it all up, we'll find that out. But we're going to play with it. I guess we'll open it up real quick and then see what it looks like from a components perspective. And then we'll hook it up and try the different connectivity methods. We will go through RGB, component, and maybe if we have time, composite as well. Okay, we're going to unscrew this thing real quick. Now, the pads for this did need to come off, so there was some like protective pads. They were kind of a pain in the butt to take off, so I just did it off camera. You didn't really want to see me struggling through that, I don't think. So after we remove these 4 screws, I should be able to take this cover off and we can take a look at what's inside here. Now keep in mind, like I told you, they did claim that the BIOS was the 4.0 Uni BIOS, so that should be that's good actually. So if we have that, that's actually great. We'll see in a minute how it looks inside. Like, is the work good? Is it shoddy? I mean, I've seen a couple of these that I open up from China. Sometimes they're really good and sometimes it's not so good. So we'll find out. Sometimes you just feel like, hey, maybe I just shouldn't have opened it in general. Maybe I should have left well enough alone. But hey, sometimes we just want to see what's inside the shell, right? So let's do that real quick. Okay, I'm going to take off the top now. There's a reset button right here, like I said, so there's a little connector underneath here. So we want to get that off first to make sure that we don't damage anything. So let's see if I can get this out. Okay, we got it. All right, we got the reset button off. Now we can lift up the top and see what's underneath this. Okay, so what are we working with here? So I'm not an expert at the componentry of the inside of a Neo Geo, but that's what it looks like right there. I'm assuming this might be something that's common and well known. I'm assuming this is the Unibios. It does not say anything on there. So I think this is some kind of mod that's probably common and well known in the Neo Geo world, not something I'm that familiar with. And then I'm not sure actually what this does, this Neo buff thing right here. I think this might be a replacement for a chip that commonly fails on these things. I think that's what this is. But so I think this is just like an open source sort of project or something for those chips. Now this is kind of interesting where the backup battery is. They have like a capacitor or some kind of super capacitor, and one of the leads is here and the other one is on this chip. Someone that probably knows this better than me might be able to say whether this is like considered a hack or not. So I'm not really sure. It doesn't look great, but yeah, so I don't know. So that's something maybe of concern. And then the capacitors, let's see. The capacitors look like they're new to me. Those look like recaps, but maybe they're not. I don't know. They look recapped to me. So the other thing is, so this is the single slot Neo Geo board. If you look, I think what they do when they design these is they probably grab componentry and mix and match them to make sort of a workable setup. Because this is all like, if you want to call it like new, it's old stock, but it's probably been used, right? Like this probably lived in an arcade cabinet at some point. This looks like something they designed, this outside board. This is definitely something that they designed, and I'm assuming these two right here, these chips right here, are probably responsible for the video output that this thing has. So this thing does have, like I said, RGB out and then component out. So kind of cool, like the options are good. But I mean, the overall work on the board doesn't look sloppy to me, at least, except for this. Like, I'm not sure what this is all about. So someone that might know this architecture better than me, maybe we'll say whether this is like a total hack and probably shouldn't have been done. But anyways, we'll see. We will see exactly what Unibios it has on it when we actually boot it up and check it out. But let's put the case back on. I'll screw it back together, and then we'll see how this thing looks with the various different video output options that it has. Okay, so the first connection type we're going to test is component. I have it on this Toshiba. This is actually a new old stock TV that I got from somebody locally. It's pretty cool. And then I'm using a multi-cart. So if you're unfamiliar with these, this is the 161-in-1. It's the latest one that came out. They work pretty good. So they have not the whole catalog, but they have a lot of the common, most desirable Neo Geo games on it. So we're going to put this in, fire it up, and see how it looks on this TV. This TV's literally been used like twice, so it should look pristine, providing they didn't do any shenanigans with the video output of this device. So let's put the cartridge in, fire it up, and see what we get. So I think the TV was on. So I'm going to turn that on, fire this thing up. It is running Unibios 4.0, which is cool, so that's good. So they didn't lie about that. All right, so I fired up Sengoku 3 because it's a very colorful game, and you can see, I mean, it looks freaking spectacular. Look at how good it looks. I mean, I am very excited. So the thing is, what I was worried about is maybe they would route component or composite down the component line or do something stupid like that, but man, this looks solid. This looks really, really good. So now keep in mind it is on a CRT, but the component on a CRT clearly looks very, very, very nice. So no issues here. I'm gonna actually do the same thing now. We tested component on a CRT, looks great obviously. And we're gonna now test the output on that TV that's mounted that you can't see on the wall right there. So we'll do a standard TV, you know, standard modern TV, and see how that looks. But wow, this looks great.
All right, guys, for the next test, we're gonna do RGB out of the consolized MVS device. Now, because it doesn't have native HDMI out, I'm gonna go RGB to an OSSC, and then that will give me HDMI out to the TV. So I wanna see how it looks on a modern TV as RGB, and then after that, for the final test, we'll actually hook it up to a PVM RGB as well to see how that looks. All right, well, let's fire it up and see. Okay, I'm gonna fire up Polestar this time. This is using the OSSC RGB out. It looks really, really crisp so far, and I think that's kind of gonna be the name of the game when it comes to RGB. So RGB is gonna be the most reference quality you can get. Obviously, it's gonna look the best on a CRT, but it looks pretty damn good, like really good in my opinion on this TV using RGB with the OSSC. Now keep in mind, you could use like a RetroTink 4K or even like one of the older RetroTinks. I just happen to have an OSSC, so that's what I'm using. But man, it looks really colorful, really vibrant, and no complaints. The brightness looks good and everything, and I haven't tweaked it at all. This is just me plugging it into the TV. I didn't go and set any specific TV settings, so I'm really happy with the way this looks.
Okay, so I wanted you guys to see what it would look like via direct capture. So right now I'm going RGBS out of the consolized MVS into the OSSC, and the OSSC is going HDMI into my Elgato capture card. And you can see it looks pretty good. I didn't do any adjustments here, so I could probably go to the capture card and mess with like maybe the contrast and the brightness, maybe the hue slightly, but for not messing with it, it looks pretty good. So, I mean, I'm pretty impressed with this device in general, considering like it wasn't super expensive, and we're getting a pretty good video quality out of it. So, for what it's worth, you know, for being like a China device that they did slap together with old components, it's not too bad. Anyways, the last test will be hooking it up to a PVM. That should look the best out of all of them. So let's fire up the PVM and see.
All right, I pulled out the PVM. This is actually a PVM, a Sony PVM 1341. So here's our RGB cable that's coming out of the Neo Geo, the MVS consolized Neo Geo. We're just gonna simply connect red, green, and blue. So there's red, there's the green, and there's the blue. If you haven't used one of these before, there's inputs and outputs, so you can daisy chain this to another PVM device if you want, so you could have like multiple showing the same content. And this is your sync cable, so it's important that you end up hooking up your sync cable. If you don't, you won't get a picture. But that's it. That's how we're gonna hook this up. Unfortunately, this cable doesn't pass audio, the one I have. So we're not gonna have audio, but we can at least evaluate how the picture looks. Okay, so this is the output of the PVM. Now keep in mind, you're gonna see that sort of rolling effect right there. It's because Neo Geo operates at a different refresh rate that's slightly less than 60. So my camera can't be completely dialed in. So you're gonna see that, but hopefully you get a really good idea of how crisp the picture is. I'm gonna actually do it with my cell phone because my cell phone has an app that allows me to dial in the refresh rate almost exactly, so you won't see that. But hopefully, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. You can see just how amazing this looks on a PVM. I mean, it's incredible how good the picture looks. I don't know, like if you've never used a PVM and done RGB, it's out of control how good it looks. But what I'm glad to see is that this console, they didn't really like mess this up. So it looks pretty good. You know, I was expecting it to maybe be messed up, but it's definitely not. It looks great. And, you know, I mean, obviously you're taking a risk with any of this stuff from AliExpress, but I'm pretty impressed with how it looks. I'm going to switch over to the cell phone real quick so you can kind of see what it looks like there. Hopefully you'll get just a clearer picture. I think I'll do a different game this time. Maybe we'll do Samurai Showdown 2. Okay, I'm over on my cell phone and I have it to 59 hertz, so it's pretty close. But I want you to see just how good a PVM freaking looks, man. This output looks great. I couldn't be more happy with this. And just kind of showing you like, hey, this device, even though it's a AliExpress special, is not too bad. So depending on what you're looking for, if you're a big Neo Geo fan and you're looking for something that you want to play the games on and the AES is too expensive for you, you don't want to do it via emulation, you want to do it via original hardware, this isn't a bad option. So I hope this gives you a good perspective as to the capabilities of this thing. I tried to really test all of the video outputs, so you know what you're getting yourself into if you decide to go down this path.
Okay, something else I wanted to show you really quick is when you're in a game and you press start and select, you'll get the in-game BIOS menu. So check this out. So I'm going to switch over to the game really quick. And now I'm going to hit start and select, and you're going to see this in-game menu pop up. So you have a cheat database if you want to apply cheats to the game. If I press C, I'll go back. But if I soft reboot the system, this is where it gets interesting. So if I hit soft reboot, what I'm going to do is when I hit soft reboot, I'm going to make sure when the BIOS menu comes up, I'm going to hit C, A, and B. So make sure you do it when you see the BIOS menu. I'm going to show you that right now. So we hit soft reboot system, so hit A on that. And now I'm hitting C, B, and A as soon as I see the BIOS menu pop up right here. Now here you can change the region. So if you want it to have like the say no to drugs message and all that stuff, that's only going to be in US. I think the system defaults to European or Japan, but if you're in the US and that's something you care about, you can hit that. And then you can have it in arcade mode or AES mode. So I'm going to hit arcade mode. So now the new settings have already been applied. Now there's some general BIOS settings too. You can disable the boot up hardware test. If you do that, it'll pass through any error messages or things like that. There's a whole bunch of other things you can do here, but I'm going to just keep it like that. So now we're going to basically back out of here, hit C again. Now it's going to reboot, and you should see the say no to drugs message when it boots up. Let's see. If I did it correctly, you should at least. All right, so there it is. So you'll see stuff like that. You'll also see like warnings about blood and things like that they wouldn't have in the Japanese release. So you don't see this stuff if it's in the other region. So there you go. That's something else I wanted to show you. The one other thing I wanted to show you really quick is controller support. So I do have an Xbox controller here. This is just an Xbox One controller. I'll have a link in the description to this specific one if you want. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to plug that in real quick. So I'm going to take the DB15 off. I'm going to plug this in. I'm going to show you it's seamless. It's just going to work. There's no, and the mappings are actually pretty cool. It does show you the mappings on the AliExpress website. I haven't tried this without rebooting the system. Let's see if it works by just like plugging and playing it. All right, so let's see. I'm going to go back to gameplay, but I'm going to overlay the desktop camera just so you can see that really quick. So let's see. This should be, yep, so it's letting me put in coins. Yeah, so it's all good to go. It's mapped to both the analog stick and the D-pad, but I don't play this game, so I'm not really gonna be very good or anything, but just to show you functionality, it all works. I'll show you really quick. But it's all mapped. It's mapped to, I believe, X, A, and B, I believe. So let's see. So just so you can see what I'm doing on my controller here. So there's punch. Yeah, so you can see it's all good. It's all mapped and stuff. So perfect. It's really cool that you can just plug and play these controllers as well. So if you want to use both a standard Xbox controller or, you go with the OG, you can do either one, and it works great with this device.
Okay, so what do I think about this consolized Neo Geo MVS system from AliExpress? It surprised me. The video output capabilities are pretty good with component, composite, and RGB. As S-Video too, but we didn't test that, and we didn't test composite. But component looked great, so if you have a CRT TV with component inputs, this would look pretty damn good with component. But also if you have a PVM and you want to use RGB, that looks great too. Now keep in mind, if you want to use it on a modern TV, you're going to need something to get it from either RGB or component to HDMI. So you'd need like an OSSC or potentially like a RetroTink or something like that. So just keep in mind you would need that if you wanted to output it to a modern television. But it looks really good, man. I'm actually pretty impressed with that. AliExpress sometimes it's hit or miss with these kind of things. And keep in mind, even though mine was a good experience, I have actually recommended AliExpress things before to someone. Theirs was slightly different and vice versa. So just proceed with caution, but the one I have and the experience that I had was actually pretty damn good. I bought it with my own money. This wasn't provided to me or anything like that. So it's a cool way to experience Neo Geo without the arcade cabinet. Also, if you were looking at collecting or starting to buy or purchase an AES or even an MVS board by itself, the boards themselves are cheap, but the games are starting to get more expensive. The AES system is really expensive nowadays. So this is a cool way for you to get in without spending a bunch of money and experience it on real hardware. Now the games and the cartridges themselves, AES and MVS, although MVS is cheaper, they're both really expensive nowadays, although certain games are not. You can get repro games on AliExpress, but you can also get the 161 cart. So if you want to start experiencing the games and you want to do it on original hardware, but you don't have the means to buy all the games because it is they are really expensive, you could start with the 161 in one cart and then kind of go from there. So I think this is a pretty cool solution because I've never been able to afford an AES, nor do I really want to spend that kind of money on one. This gives me like that best of both worlds because I can use MVS carts in it, and it's the original, you know, arcade versions of the game, so it's pretty damn cool. So anyways, I'm curious what you guys think. Put your comments below. I definitely want to hear from you. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. That's it for now, guys. We will see you. Oh, one more thing. That Neo buff chip is actually, it's cool that they provided that because it's sort of future-proofed in a way. There's a chip that fails on the original MV1B or MV1A, I can't remember exactly the model number of this particular board, but they did put that on there, so that's a good thing, kind of future-proofs it a little bit, and mine seemed to look like it was recapped, so that's good. If not, and you're handy, you can kind of do that stuff later on. But anyways, that's it for now, guys. We will see you on the next one.